Hey, Jason Kissel here. We are looking at a Google form that is populating responses into a Google Sheet, and in doing so is populating a Looker Studio, formerly known as Data Studio. And yeah, this isn't like a beginner course on Looker Studio, Data Studio, because I don't really know that much, to be honest. I know enough to just kind of get through it and create a dashboard for people to look at. But I ran into this problem with my form this year that I haven't in years past. And so I want to kind of go through what it looks like to make functional data out of a multiple choice grid question. Multiple choice grid. I Googled, searched YouTube. Heck, I even asked ChatGPT at one point to try to help me build this out in Looker Studio. And I just didn't get anything I loved, right? I just kept fumbling my way around this for about an hour or so. And then I stumbled upon this amazing Medium article, and I'll share with you the link. It's in the description. But and then another YouTube video that I'm using to sort my uh, free response questions. I'll add that on to the end there, a little extra nugget, and that won't be quick. But these two resources have changed the game for me in terms of being able to create something functional in Looker Studio. So here's my form. It's a bit long, but it's for all people who, all staff in our district. I don't think there's anything, too identifiable. So hopefully I don't have to blur anything out here. You can see I have 421 responses. I'm filtering by building, I'm filtering by grade band, and I'm filtering by years of experience. These were based on some other surveys that I read and went through, and some research that I kind of went through about technology surveys, and those seem to be pretty consistent. So those were the ones I was looking for. I'm also not trying to identify anybody by their demographics, right? So it's completely anonymous and it's supposed to be. All right. So you can see here just regular multiple choice, but right here, multiple choice grid. Now, it's single response per column, which if you didn't do it that way and you had check boxes here, I don't know how you'd ever sort that data, right? It would be really hard. Okay, but right now I've got single select, and then I have about 5 or 6 of these, right? And when you go to responses here on Google Forms, you get this really nice graph. Like you can copy and paste this, right? But like it just copy and paste the whole thing. It doesn't really help me that much. I want to build something similar to this in Looker Studio, right? And I was struggling figuring out how to do that, but you can see my data is really nice when I can see it like this. And actually, I'd like to change the colors a bit because these blues kind of match up. Now they're in order, and it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But I'd still like to do a little bit more manipulation of this, right? So that's where it started. I was like, all right, I got to be able to do this, and I couldn't. And the reason why I couldn't, I'm gonna jump over to so I'm gonna jump. There's like 5 different tabs I got to jump between. But the reason I couldn't is because the data. Let me unhide some stuff so you can see what I'm talking about here. The data for that comes over as a column for each one of those. Chromebooks column, Windows desktops column, Gmail and Google Drive column. And you notice that there's just a column for every single question, right? And that makes it really hard to build in Looker Studio. Okay, so I was going to do a graph for each one, but man, my form is so long. That would take up so much, right? And so I was like, okay, I want them all in a singular graph. Honestly, if I could just duplicate the Google form question, that would be great. And if somebody can show me how to just do that, like if Google has that built in, let me know, right? But I couldn't find that. So I'm searching, and this wonderful, wonderful gentleman, Riccardo Carlesso, talks about it being called an unpivot table. Basically, you have to take all that data and you have to parse it out row by row by row by row, instead of it kind of being organized in one user with answers all the way across columns. You need use the same user a bunch of times with their answers, and then you'll be able to sort that data, right? And so he had the same kind of thing. He had a Google form with multiple choice grid, which I kept searching that because that's what Google calls it, and I couldn't find what I was looking for. And I'm not going to read to you this article, right? You can read the article. This is basically the format I use. I stole the app script from right here in GitHub. I did exactly what he said, right? And he has the exact same problems as me. All right. So then we fixed it. There's an awesome picture of him cycling. He seems like a great guy. I would love to meet him. But for now, I'll just support. This is amazing. So yeah, I went through the Stack Overflow article and I used this exact script and it worked perfectly right away. I maybe edited a bit on this. All right. So let's go back to my sheet. So basically, I need all of this. I need all these answers to populate one row at a time, where this user has an answer for each column, or each row. Okay, so let me show you. And I have a lot of these because I've been manipulating my data a ton. So this is my responses that are coming in. Here's my skill level. All right, so you use this formula right here, unpivot, after you create the app script, right? And so again, I'm not going to explain that app script here. I'm sorry if that's what you came for, because I didn't write it. And I looked through the code. I made sure it looked pretty legitimate. It looked good. I can read code decently, but I cannot script like that. And then you just have to get this to match what you're looking for. So I wanted to go in my responses one, which is what I have my Google form responses, and I want to take all the columns A1 to O. So that would include starting, and I added an ID column in because you need a unique identifier, and I didn't have that, like email address or something. So if you had that, you wouldn't need that, but I didn't have a unique identifier. A1 to O. O is the last of that question, right? Okay. 6 is the number of fixed columns. So that's the number of columns in that data from A1 to O at the beginning that we don't need to parse out using this unpivot. All right, and then technology type and rating are just what this is how these are gonna get named, these two columns. So you can name those whatever you like. Name them something that is easy to bring over into Data Studio, or Looker Studio, I'm sorry. And you'll see, so the first user, there's all their answers. So they answered advanced on every single one of these. Okay, so this is the first iteration. Just ignore column A and B for now. Here's the second user, third user. So you can see now there's way more columns, or way more rows, I'm sorry, than there used to be. Like 9 times as many because each person answered 9 questions there. That's step 1. All right, now you can actually do something with this in Data Looker Studio. My goodness, will I ever get it right? That you couldn't before. All right, so I'm gonna jump over to my Looker Studio, and I've already built this because this is so complex to me that I had a hard time, and I didn't want to fumble my way through it. So I'm gonna rebuild it as you're watching me. Okay, so this is what I want at the end of the day. You can see each one of those is organized down here. And I can change the colors and sort these if I'd like. Like you can see these are both orange, so I need to do some work here on the styling of it, but I just haven't gotten to that yet. But I also wanted a filter, so I didn't want all the graphs to always show up because if I wanted to be able to just sort my Google Slides answers and get a really nice, easy to read graph here. Hopefully it'll come through. I don't know why it's taking so long. All right. Come on, Looker Studio. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know. I had to refresh and do a little bit extra work there to get that going. Okay, so what I want is I want to be able to filter by each question, right? And then I want this to be sorted better. I don't want just the highest number to go. And we can work on that and their controls here a bit when I click on this chart, or the setup, I guess. And then I also don't love that it says key lookup question here. I guess I could probably just put like filter. Maybe it will filter it. Maybe it'll change those words to filter. Okay. I'm really perturbed by how slow this is because it's really going to impede on my ability to show you this. So let's give it a shot. So the first thing you need to be able to do is you have to have that second sheet that you just created using Riccardo's work. After you build this, right, you have a second sheet. You need to import that into Data Studio. So you'll have your responses, and then you'll have your other one, which I've called skill level. All right. And then it's hard for me to even remember what I was using, right? But it was technology type and rating. So I'm just going to bring technology type over here. Okay. And I'm going to change the chart to a column chart. All right. And let's sort by technology type here. Using the same scale as above, rate your skill level proves the following. Google Slides. For some reason, oh, I'm only filtering Google Slides up here. Good to know. I'm like, why is it only showing that? Okay, so you can see all of them are coming over now, right? But they're all coming up as 400 because that's the record count for all of them. So now to build this, and again, Riccardo actually shows you exactly this as well because he's an amazing person. You're going to use your rating as the breakdown dimension. Now, I so wish I could explain this to you in plain terms, but I can't, right? Um, I would love somebody to help me explain the difference between dimension and breakdown dimension. But essentially, what that does is that gives you a graph you can see for each one of these tools. But if you look here, you've got the wrong terminology down here because when you do this, it takes the entire question prompt and the answer. So if I go back to my form real quick, using the same scale as above, rate your skill level for each of the following. It puts that at the beginning of every single one of these, and then it puts this in weird brackets. You see that? If I highlight Google Docs. Okay, so again, Riccardo, I can't take credit for like any of this because Riccardo did it all. He's like, all right, there's a way to let's just filter out uh, that beginning part and just have the part at the end. And it's kind of nice because there's brackets. We can write a little formula for that. So that's the key lookup title and the key lookup question. So if you look, oh, I'm on row 230. I'm like, why do you not see the formula? This is the formula that Riccardo gives um, in his blog. Again, follow his blog, right? And I promise you it will work. It's amazing. But I wanted to label this video as multiple choice grid and analysis because nobody seemed to have a video called that. So you're using a VLOOKUP and you're basically parsing out the beginning of it using the same scale as above with the actual question in, or the actual, for me, the actual technology tool in question. Now, you do have to create this little headers magic page. Again, it's just these four formulas. So you just need the row, you just need the column header from the first responses, and then you're trying to figure out if it has those square brackets, because if it does, then we're going to split it between key name and key value. If it doesn't, it's just key name. That's the formula that Riccardo came up with on his own to make this happen, and it's awesome because, like you can see here, when it comes to true, you get key values. Okay, so there's key values here, but if it's false, there's no key value, and then true again, more key values. Okay, so those are all my multiple choice grid questions right there. Boom, that's sweet. So then using that, you're able to build this out. Okay, so now if I go back to, you can see there's a difference between this graph. It just has the, and I need to adjust it a little bit so you can read them all, but it doesn't have the using the same, which makes them all look the same, right? And all you have to do here is change your technology type to your key lookup. I always forget which one it is. Question, which will give you your dimension down here. There you go. That's awesome. All right. Then my last step was to create a filter. So that's really easy, right? Like I didn't want all of these graphs on there all the time. Didn't want you to have to assume you need that. So I can do that pretty easily. I can add a control, drop down list, and make it key lookup question. Okay, I don't like it sorting by 421 or anything like that. I don't need that metric. Okay, now that looks good. I just want to make the order ascending. And that looks perfect. Okay, and then I can style that however I want. But now if I search Chromebooks, okay, and you can see how the graph looks a bit different based on the scale that you have. Okay, so now I just want to adjust this graph a bit because I don't love, and please, be gracious with me because these are the things that I probably should be better at while I'm making videos for Looker Studio. But it is what it is, right? Like I kind of want to give you this authentic bit. So sort right now is by how many years have you been teaching, which is not relevant at all, right? So let's sort by key lookup question maybe. Okay, I'm gonna select all my graphs again so I can at least see what I'm sorting by here. Okay. Metric, record count, that's right. These are good. Okay. Back to sort. Maybe I'll go key lookup question. And it's sending. Okay. So that's gonna sort my dimension down here from A to Z. Right? So you can see, let me move this a bit. You can see, oh, I selected Chromebooks. That is so cool. You can see the difference, right? This one is sorted, looks like Z to A, and this one's sorted A to Z. Okay, secondary sort. So I want to be able to sort these up here. I guess sort by rating, maybe? Oh, there we go. And then ascending. Perfect. Okay, so look, like you can see, this is a really, document camera is a really good one because it shows all 6 bars. Some of them don't, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But the oranges, and I don't love that, right? Okay, so I think I'm good here. I'm not going to adjust anything else. I really like the way that looks. Style, manage dimension value colors. Okay, wow. So what I need to do here, well, first I need to figure out what I want to use. Looks like I got some weird answers in here too. Those are all our schools. Okay, so I have some work to do here for sure. But it looks like if I wanted to, and just for testing's sake, if I wanted to make that black, yeah, it changes it. Oh, and I can see it right there. That's really nice. So if I wanted to make this like a grayscale graph, for example, I could go like this. Where did that go? Sorry about this, guys. This is a bit tricky for me. This is something new. All right, so let's just start at black. And we'll just move our way up a little bit by a little bit. All right. That wouldn't be very helpful, I guess, would it? I could do like pastels. I could see you wasting a lot of time on this. There's websites where you can create color palettes, and I'll probably use that, to be honest. Create something that I like. But at least now I can make the colors a bit different, right? Okay, and then it's really up to you on a stylistic point. Like I'm gonna try to have 4 or 5 pages on this total. I think I honestly like it smaller. I know that shrinks all these down and makes it a bit harder to read, but I want people to use this filter, right? Because then that graph's really nice. All right, so as long as I position the filter, I think like right above it, I'll delete this one. Make it like very obvious that you should be using the filter for it. And you could do a couple if you really were interested, right? You should be able to see them fine. I kind of like it like that, I think. And then another nice thing, which with my levels up here, is I can filter this out. It will tell me how many people have completed it, and we'll filter this down as well. Really nice feature. that's where I'm at. Okay, so that's it. Multiple choice grid. That's how I've added a filter. I have these multiple histograms going across the same axis, which is really nice. I'll use my math terms here. And then the last one I'm going to show you, this is just the extra nugget. So if you came from the multiple choice grid, have a good day. If you want to see this checkbox or multiple choice questions, so this, my friend Mohammed here, um, I actually think that Looker Studio does a decent job with this multiple select. If it's just a single question, I think you can create decent graphs because it will just count them all. But I'm using this actually as my free response. So my free response asks for specific technology tools. I'll show you. What technology tools would you like to see the district consider adopting that you have tried in your classroom, right? So this is really a great one, and less than half the people responded. So those responses seem really important, right? And there's a good amount of NAs and nuns, but you'll also see some big long lists or some big long right responses, right? So how do you filter that without counting one by one reasonable data? So here's kind of my thought process. You please, if you have another idea, let me know. So I went to my responses and I had filters set up. It's going to take me a second to find that because there's just a ton of questions on here. Here it is. Okay, and I sorted it by A to Z first. All right. And then I just kind of wrote down things that I saw a few times. Bookit, Quizzes, Quizlet, Kahoot, BrainPop, Canva, ClassDojo, right? You can just make a brief list using a note, and you can read these long ones. That's really good to put. I put anecdotal stuff. Usually, I just grab a couple quotes that people have said and put it at the end of my data studio. It's not like interactive or anything. I just copy and paste, but it gives people some nice anecdotal. Or you can add them to like the bottom of each slide of your Looker Studio. It's really nice little feature. So you can see there's a lot of nuns. So how do I don't need to know how many people put none. That's not really that helpful. We're just looking for people who do have a suggestion or something they've used or want people to consider. So this is what I'm doing for that. I'm using Mohammed's formula. Thank you, Mohammed, in my worksheet. All right. So here's Mohammed's formula is searching within my responses for these words. All right. So I can put as many of these as I'd like. I wasn't sure if spaces mattered. I wasn't sure if capitalization mattered. And each row represents each person, right? So person number one didn't put anything. Person number two didn't put any of these, right? They might have put something. But then you can see like this would be like person number 10 or so, put Canva. Well, I noticed that Canva lowercase, Canva uppercase, it's the same person every time. Well, they're not writing Canva, comma, Canva. So capitalization must not matter, but you can see delta math as one word and delta math as two words definitely matters. So I will need to include that. I guess I could filter or I could clean my data up on the responses page, or I can do it here. So then at the bottom is kind of what I'm thinking here. So Edge Elastic, Edge Elastic. So there's 33 people so far that have said something about Edge Elastic. 19 for GimKit, 12 for Bookit, so on and so forth, right? 10 for Canva. And so what I can do now is I'm thinking I'll make a free response final version, and I'll just include a little table like Edge Elastic, and then I'll just do 33, right? And then I can bring this data into Looker Studio, and it'll be really, really clean. And I can make a really nice little graph to represent the number of people who are interested in these tools. That's kind of my thought. I have like 4 or 5 pre-response. Some of them are a little bit more generic and vague, so I can't really hammer it into this, but that's kind of where I'm going with that. And the formula, one more time, if you missed it, is right here. Okay, but all I'm doing is an if statement. So if it's true, put a blank. If it's false, put a 1. An error, and then it's searching inside of. So it's searching for delta math inside of the column on my responses sheet, and it's doing it for each one of these words. That's it. All right. So once again, you're probably like, wow, he knows nothing. This is kind of my journey on Looker Studio, and you can kind of see like I'm not very far along yet. I don't have titles, I don't have colors, as you could tell. I'm struggling through that a bit, but we're gonna get there, right? And my filters work up here, and that's a nice clean header that I'm gonna keep across every page. Questions that I can use, graphs like this, simple graphs I will do, but I'll have to add some more of these multiple choice grid questions as well. So that's why my Google Sheet has 5 of them, because there's 5 of those questions. So I'm going to have to import each one of those sheets, bring it over as I did before. Headers Magic works for the whole sheet, so I should be able to reference that whenever I need to. And bingo, bango, bongo. If you have questions, actually, if you have questions, feel free to ask them in the comments. But if you have any suggestions or resources in order to get better at these types of questions, I would love, love, love to see it. Thanks.